Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I figured I would just sit down and tell you guys a little story time on how I got started in photography. I kind of realized that my photography journey has been kind of a little while at this point, but I've only been showcasing it for a little over a year and a half. So I realized that a lot of you probably don't know hardly anything about me or that I've been doing a lot of the things that I have, or that I've shot a lot of the things that I shot, and because of that I have a lot of stories I can tell you. But before I kind of tell you any stories, I figured I should give you a nice basis of who I am and how I got started. And because, like I said, my public presence on social media has mostly been on Instagram, and I also realized that not everyone that is on YouTube is also on Instagram. So for those of YouTubers that don't know anything about me, this one's for you. So if you want to know how I got started in photography, then go ahead and keep on watching. So I've always had, I guess, like a knack for photography or an interest in it. Ever since I can remember, whenever I would see a camera laying around, I would pick it up and use it. And when I was about 14 or 15, I believe, my grandma gifted me with my first DSLR camera, which was extremely exciting for me. Before that, I had just used point-and-shoot digital cameras. I can remember one of my favorites was a Sony Cybershot, and I was super excited about it because it was touchscreen, and that was just super advanced for those times. Yeah, when I got that DSLR, I was so stoked about it. My grandma was kind of the only one in my family that ever kind of took an interest in photography other than standard just point-and-shoot cameras. So she was the only person that I would say could ever have influenced me into wanting to do photography or liking it. So when I got that camera, I was ecstatic, and I kind of just shot anything that I could. Mostly I would shoot my friends. We would just kind of like plan little last minute, styled shoots that were really terrible, and we would just go out and shoot. So yeah, that was kind of all I ever thought of it. A little bit about me. Growing up, as a young girl, I knew that when I became a woman in my life, I never wanted to be dependent on anyone. And so at a young age, I knew that I wanted to be independent and have a career. And so I was really focused on that growing up. I did really well in school, and I was always kind of focused on that path of really exceeding and doing well in education, and thinking that that was going to be my path to success and how I would find my career, my purpose, all of that. So I spent a lot of my life really focused on school. Outside of school, I played soccer, so those were the two things that I did growing up. That's kind of what I focused on. So I never really thought photography could ever be anything more than just a hobby. The idea of getting into photography was so uncertain. Even, like I said, as a young girl, in my mind, I thought, well, there's no way that I could just count on being a photographer. Like, that's not a sure job. Sadly, everyone around me kind of encouraged that idea as well. Most people were encouraging me to pursue that path on education, getting a secure job. And because that's what people want for you that care about you, I guess. They want you to have a secure job so you can just have money and be unhappy and die bored and lonely and never see anything other than one little area. But anyway, we didn't find that out until much later. And then it wasn't until I was about 18 or 19 that I got my first paid job. So up until this point, everyone knew that I liked photography or had a camera, and so this one girl that I knew, she was graduating from high school, and so she wanted some senior photos. And so I charged her like a really low amount. I can't remember what it was, probably like $50 or something. I charged her a low amount, and we did a really long senior photo session. After that session, I kind of realized, first of all, I enjoyed that way too much, but second of all, like, the fact that I could enjoy something so much and get paid for it was kind of mind-blowing. Up until that point, I had worked my literal whole life. My parents have always owned their own businesses, so I would work with them. And then when I was 15, I got my first job outside of working for my family. And I was always working. And I wouldn't say that I was always super enjoying what I was doing. After that first session, she told her friends, and then her friends told other friends, and it kind of just started spreading like wildfire. I started just getting jobs word of mouth, and it wasn't until the following year that I got my first wedding. Yes, crazy, I know. I got my first wedding after not really knowing anything about photography. I had just done a couple of, senior portrait sessions, some kid sessions, a couple of family sessions, and so then I ran into my first wedding. It was a close family friend who didn't have a big budget, and she was like well aware of what my status and level was. She decided she wanted to ask me because of her low budget, and she figured I was the perfect person. It was some experience for me and photos for her, and I took the job. And you guys, I don't recommend doing that. I don't recommend that being your way into weddings, but I am grateful that I got the experience. Luckily though, for me, like I said, it was someone I knew, so there was a lot of people there that could help me because I was really young. I think I was like 19 or 20, and I had never even like really been to weddings other than when I was really little and like being a flower girl in a wedding. So at that point I wasn't even aware of all of the steps that even take place in a wedding, you know, as far as like when the ceremony is, when the cocktail hour is. Like I didn't know any of that. So luckily I did have people that could help me kind of guide me through it. Yeah, that was my first wedding. Yeah, so at this time I had transferred to USF and I was going to university in Tampa. Still at this point, photography was not even secondary. It was like the third and fourth thing on my mind. It was just not what I was doing. My first priority was school. My second priority was work. My third priority was internships. Like photography was so far down on the map, I wasn't even thinking about it. So yeah, my junior year of college, I got an internship. And this is where it all comes together. So I got an internship in marketing, sort of. I was working for a dental company. I say working, no, I was not working. I was interning for free for a very long time for this startup dental materials company. I was really excited. All I was focused on was doing well with this internship and hoping that it turned into a full-time job. So I did this internship and one full semester passes and I completed a full semester of unpaid interning for this company. I gained so much experience. I was really not even that mad or upset that it was unpaid. I was just grateful for the experience and being able to put that on my portfolio, and also just like really hopeful that that meant that like, okay, I'm putting in all this time for free, I must be getting some kind of offer for the next semester. Boy, was I wrong. Second semester comes around, I come back from winter break, and I still have no word of like what's going on with this internship. So I reach out to the owner of the business, or my boss, and I kind of asked if there was any update. Am I going to continue on with this internship? Is there any possibility of it becoming paid? And I was told that because it's a startup, it's really just not in the budget. Pending how I do on this second half of this internship, I should with no problem have a spot with the full-time position with this company. So I buckled down and kicked ass at the internship and worked really hard hoping for that full-time position. This internship really took a lot out of me. I was really unhappy and I didn't really realize the magnitude of that until much later, but every day that I did this internship I was really, really unhappy, and it progressively got worse as I began to spend more time there. Fast forward those full 2 semesters that I did unpaid. Upon like my final semester of school, I believe I finally got offered a very low wage for a part-time position, and the promise was that it would be this low wage at part-time until I completed graduation, and then we would kind of get together and regroup and reassess where everything was at. I spent a lot of time banking on this while being really unhappy, and I mean, when I say I was unhappy, I was like really unhappy. I would cry all the time. I mean, I would call my mom being like, Mom, like I can't do this, I hate this. Every single day I was doing school or that or both, and when I would go to this job, it was an 8 to 5, like sit at your desk, stare at a screen kind of job, and I could not handle it. When I finally was about to graduate, my boss had emailed me and was asking me when I'd be available to come in and have a meeting for this exciting full-time position that I'd been waiting on. And so I was so excited, like my whole family was like waiting for the news on like what it was gonna be. Emailed this offer, and the offer was just a huge slap in the face. After all the time that I had put in there, I felt like it was a really unfair offer. But whether or not it was unfair or wasn't unfair, it was not for me. And I called for a meeting and went in and asked to meet in the middle on some of the parts of this offer that I felt to be unfair. After the amount of time that I'd put in, especially, my boss at the time just didn't care. It really showed me that you only have one life to live and you have to do it the way that you want because that's the way that everyone else is going to do it. When I realized that this offer was going to be nowhere near where I would be happy, I decided at 21 years old to stand up and politely decline the offer. I shook my boss's hand, I folded up my folder of notes that I had prepared, and I walked out of the office. I didn't know what was next. I had no plan. I was living 2 hours north of where my family was. I had no idea what was to come, but I knew that that wasn't for me. And if I chose to do that, that I was going to make a really bad decision that was going to set the tone for the rest of my life. Like, that was my ticket to the kind of life that I don't want to live. And so I decided right then and there to quit. I decided that I was going to move home and stay with my mom and try and get my life together and figure out what was next for me, because I had just graduated. That job fell through and I didn't really want to be in Tampa anymore, so I moved home. And so I promise this story is coming to an end soon. But I was listening to the radio, and I guess I had the radio on as I was approaching my hometown. On the radio, I had heard an ad for a wedding convention at this convention center, like this convention center that was in my hometown. For some reason, I listened to that commercial, and I don't really ever listen to commercials. You know, you kind of just like tune out when commercials are on. And for some reason, I intently listened to like every word. It really like sat with me, and I really thought about it, like becoming a wedding photographer. Like, obviously I'd shot a wedding before at this point, or 2 weddings at this point, but they were just friends, and I literally thought it would never become anything more than that, or I would ever do more than that with photography. And for some reason, when I heard this ad, it was just like sinking in with me. And a few days later, a friend of mine had messaged me, sure enough, mentioned the bridal show to me, and asked if I wanted to go and look around and kind of search photography booths to see what's in the area and if anyone needs second shooters. And I was like, that's really weird, because I had just heard that ad, and I, like, the whole thing was crazy. I was like, yeah, I'll totally go. So we went to this show, and all these photographers, after we started talking to them and they found out we were photographers trying to find some work, everyone was really put off, because as photographers, they're at this show trying to make money, so I can kind of understand, but I was willing to do anything. And so honestly, every single photo like company that was at this show was really rude and didn't want to give us the time of day. And really discouraged. We're like walking around the last aisle, and there was one more photography booth. One more booth. We're super friendly, asking us, you know, are we getting married? Because we're at a bridal show. We're like, oh no, we're photographers. We just kind of wanted to see, you know, what's going on and if anyone needs second shooters, because we're really trying to get into weddings. And the woman goes, oh, you're trying to be a second shooter? No way. We are based out of Michigan, but we just have expanded our business down to Florida, and we need second shooters. And I was like, no way. And so they gave us their card and said, just shoot us an email and we'll meet up for lunch and we'll work things out. We'll like set up a date that you can come shoot with us. Set up a lunch date, and we had planned for like a month out from then for me to come along and kind of shadow at their wedding. That was literally how I got started. I shadowed for that wedding and kind of hit it off with them. And right after that, I think I shadowed one more wedding, and then it turned into second shooting for them, and then it turned into lead shooting for them, and then it turned into meeting another company, and the rest is history. So, very long story short, but that is how I started really getting into photography and how I shot my first wedding. So after that, I knew that I need to pursue this, and I think it's somewhat of my calling. Whether or not it is my calling, it's what makes me happy, and to know that I can make a living while doing something that really fulfills me is the coolest thing ever, and it's honestly what I have been searching for. Yeah, so that's how I got started with photography. There's a lot more that has happened since. That's just the very beginning. If you did enjoy this video and liked hearing my story, leave a comment below, and maybe, just maybe, I'll tell some more stories in the future. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!